A black medic gave enemy prisoners dignity. For that, the army tried to destroy him. A Pacific island. Behind barbed wire, Japanese women bled through their uniforms while guards laughed. One soldier saw it. One soldier couldn't look away. He broke the rules. He smuggled medical supplies past watchful eyes. He gave them what no one else would: basic human mercy. But mercy looked like betrayal. Compassion looked like crime. Photographs were taken, accusations whispered. A court-martial loomed. Then, at morning inspection, 28 enemy prisoners did the impossible. They stood in the pouring rain wearing white badges of protest, defending the man who dared to see them as human. When the army forces a black soldier to choose between his conscience and his survival, what does courage really cost? And when the enemy risks everything to save him, who decides what justice looks like? The reveille horn tore through the humid air. Corporal James Carter opened his eyes to gray canvas overhead. He sat up on his cot and rolled his shoulders. His back hurt. 3 years in the Pacific had taught him to ignore small pains. Around him, other black soldiers stirred. Private Eli Brooks groaned and kicked off his blanket. The tent smelled of sweat and insect repellent. Carter reached for his boots. They were damp from the night before. Outside, the sky glowed orange. The island was quiet except for the ocean. Waves rolled against the shore beyond the barbed wire. Carter walked to the water barrel and splashed his face. The water was warm. "Another beautiful day in paradise," Eli said behind him. His voice was flat. Nobody laughed anymore. Carter dried his face with his sleeve. He put on his medic armband and gathered his kit. Trench foot, heat rash, infected bites, the same problems every morning. He moved between cots and examined feet. One soldier had fungus spreading between his toes. "Keep them dry," Carter said. He knew it was impossible. A radio crackled near the supply tent. A broadcaster spoke about victory. He talked about moral leadership. He said America would rebuild the world with justice and freedom. Carter listened while he worked. He did not smile. The camp was segregated. White officers stayed on the north side. Black soldiers unloaded crates on the south. They cleaned. They drove trucks. They fixed engines. They rarely saw combat. Carter had wanted to save lives. The army decided whose lives mattered. At breakfast, a supply officer called formation. Lieutenant Harker stood in front of the mess tent. He was tall and pale. Sweat stained his collar. "Listen up," Harker said. "You men are assigned new duty. POW compound, Japanese women. You'll deliver rations and medical supplies starting today." The men exchanged looks. Nobody spoke. "Dismissed," Harker said. Carter returned to his tent. He packed extra bandages and iodine. Eli leaned against the tent pole. "First time we get near real war," Eli said. "And it's babysitting prisoners." Carter said nothing. He checked his kit twice. Outside, engines rumbled. The convoy was forming. He climbed into the back of a canvas-covered truck. The engine coughed and started. The truck rolled forward. Carter watched the island road through the gap in the canvas. Jungle pressed close on both sides. Ahead, somewhere beyond the trees, waited the compound. He did not know what he would find there. He did not know it would change everything. The truck stopped at a checkpoint. White MPs waved them through. Carter saw barbed wire ahead. Watchtowers rose above the fence. Guards stood with rifles. The truck pulled into a dirt clearing and stopped. "Out," the driver said. Carter jumped down. Heat pressed against his skin. Eli landed beside him. They unloaded crates marked rations and medical. The compound gate opened. Carter saw rows of wooden barracks inside. Women stood in lines near the fence. They wore faded gray uniforms. Their hair was cut short. Some looked young, others looked old. All of them looked tired. Carter counted 30 women. Maybe more. Guards watched them from the shade. A white MP laughed at something. Carter turned his head. The MP was pointing at one of the women. Her skirt showed a dark stain. She tried to hide it with her hands. The MP said something crude. Another guard laughed. Carter looked away. His jaw tightened. He lifted a crate and carried it toward the gate. Eli followed with another box. They set them down inside the fence. A guard checked the inventory list. Carter saw the woman again. She was younger than he thought. Maybe 20. She walked toward a water barrel near the barracks. She dipped a rag into the muddy water and tried to clean her skirt. The stain spread. "Keep moving," a guard said. Carter returned to the truck. He loaded another crate onto his shoulder. This one was lighter. The label read, "Sanitary Supplies, U.S. Nurses." He set it down near the others. Lieutenant Harker stood nearby with a clipboard. "Sir," Carter said, "permission to speak." Harker looked up. His face was blank. "What is it, Corporal?" Carter pointed at the crate. "These supplies. The women need them." Harker frowned. "Those are for American personnel. Nurses, not enemy prisoners." "They're women, sir." "They're enemy combatants," Harker said. "Priority goes to our people. Understood?" Carter nodded slowly. "Yes, sir." Harker walked away. Carter stood still. He watched the young woman sit down against the barracks wall. She wrapped her arms around her knees. Her face was turned away. Another woman sat beside her and whispered something. They both looked small. "Let's go," Eli said quietly. Carter climbed back into the truck. The engine started again. The convoy rolled toward the gate. Carter looked back through the canvas. The women were still standing in lines. The fence gleamed in the sun. He felt something tighten in his chest. It was not anger. It was something worse. The POW truck returned to camp at dusk. Carter climbed out and walked toward the mess tent. His uniform stuck to his back. Other soldiers sat on crates and smoked. Someone dealt cards under a lantern. The air smelled of cooking grease and diesel fuel. Eli sat down beside Carter with 2 tin plates, rice and canned meat. They ate without talking. Around them, men joked and argued. A radio played jazz music from somewhere far away. Carter chewed slowly. He kept seeing the women's faces. "You're quiet," Eli said. Carter set down his fork. "You see what I saw today?" "Yeah." "And?" Eli shrugged. "It's war. Everyone suffers." Carter looked at him. "They're bleeding through their clothes. Nobody cares." Eli stopped chewing. He glanced around. No one was listening. He leaned closer. "What do you want to do about it?" "We have supplies," Carter said. "Extras. Harker doesn't check everything." Eli's eyes widened. "You're crazy." "Maybe." Sergeant Levi Miles walked past. He was older than most of them. Gray hair showed at his temples. He stopped and looked down at Carter. "Problem, Corporal?" Carter hesitated. Then he spoke. "Sarge, you ever see something wrong and do nothing?" Miles sat down slowly. He folded his hands. "Every day of my life." "How do you live with it?" Miles was quiet for a long moment. Men laughed at the card table. The radio crackled. Finally, Miles spoke. "You thinking about helping those prisoners?" Carter nodded. Miles exhaled. "Listen close. You're a black man in a white man's army. You got no protection. You touch those women, even to help them, they'll hang you for it. You understand?" "I'm a medic," Carter said. "It's my job." "Your job is what they say it is," Miles said. "Nothing more." He stood and walked away. Carter watched him go. Eli picked at his food. "He's right," Eli said. Carter said nothing. He stood and walked to his tent. Inside, he knelt beside his cot. He opened his Bible. The pages were thin and worn. He read a passage about the Good Samaritan. He closed his eyes and prayed. The words felt heavy in his mouth. Outside, the camp grew quiet. Blackout curtains dropped over the tents. Insects buzzed against the canvas. Carter lay on his cot and stared at the darkness. He thought about the young woman sitting against the wall. He thought about dignity. He thought about what it cost. Sleep did not come easy. The next day passed slowly. Carter worked through morning duties. He checked supplies and restocked his kit. At noon, Harker called another convoy. Carter and Eli climbed into the same truck. The road to the compound felt shorter this time. They arrived at dusk. The light was fading. Guards changed shifts near the gate. Carter unloaded crates with Eli. He moved carefully. Hidden inside his medic bag were 6 sanitary pads and 2 bars of soap. He had taken them from the unlogged overflow bin behind the supply tent. His heart beat faster. He tried to look calm. "Stay close," he whispered to Eli. They carried crates inside the fence. The women stood in formation for evening count. Carter scanned their faces. He found the young woman from before. She stood near the back. Another woman stood beside her. This one was older. She had sharp eyes and a straight back. Carter set down his crate. He pretended to check the inventory. A guard walked past. Carter waited. The guard disappeared around the corner. Carter moved toward the fence. The older woman saw him first. She stepped forward. Her expression was guarded. "You speak English?" Carter asked quietly. She nodded once. "A little. I'm Aki Tanaka. I was a nurse." Carter glanced over his shoulder. Eli stood watch. Carter opened his bag and pulled out the bundle. He handed it through the fence. Aki took it carefully. She unfolded the cloth. Her eyes widened. "For you," Carter said. "For all of you." Aki stared at the pads. She touched one with her finger. Behind her, the young woman stepped closer. She looked confused. "What is it?" the young woman asked in Japanese. Aki translated quickly. The young woman's face turned red. She shook her head. She did not understand. Carter pulled out a scrap of cardboard from his pocket. He had drawn a simple diagram with a pencil. It was crude but clear. He showed it to Aki. She studied it. Slowly, understanding came. Her eyes filled with tears. "Thank you," she whispered. The young woman touched the pad again. She looked at Carter. Her expression changed. Confusion became something else. Gratitude, relief. She bowed slightly. Other women gathered around. Aki explained. Some laughed nervously, some cried. One woman covered her mouth. They passed the items between them like treasures. "Time to go," Eli hissed. Carter stepped back. Aki held the bundle against her chest. She looked at Carter for a long moment. She said nothing. She did not need to. Carter turned and walked toward the truck. Darkness was falling. The guards lit lanterns near the gate. Carter climbed into the truck bed. The engine started. As they rolled away, he looked back. The women were still standing together. They held the small white packages in their hands. Carter exhaled. He had crossed a line. He knew it. There was no going back now. Morning came early in the compound. Aki woke to gray light filtering through cracks in the barracks wall. Around her, women still slept. She sat up carefully. Her back ached from the wooden bunk. She reached under her thin mattress and pulled out the bundle. The sanitary pads felt soft in her hands. She unfolded one and examined it. She had seen these before. In Tokyo, in the hospital where she worked. That life felt like a dream now. She folded the pad again and hid it. Beside her, Emi Sato stirred. She was the young woman Carter had noticed. Her eyes were red from crying the night before. Not from sadness, from relief. "Did we dream it?" Emmy whispered. Aki shook her head. No, it was real. Other women woke. They sat up and looked at Aki. She nodded. One by one, they retrieved their hidden items. They examined them in silence. Some smiled. Some wept quietly. "How do we use them?" a woman asked. Aki stood. She gathered the women in a circle. She explained carefully. She used her nursing knowledge. She drew pictures in the dirt floor with her finger. The women listened. They asked questions. Aki answered each one. Emmy tried first. She disappeared behind a hanging blanket in the corner. The others waited. Minutes passed. Finally, Emmy emerged. Her face was uncertain. Then she smiled. "It works," she said. The women took turns. They helped each other. Aki guided them. It took time. Some struggled, but slowly they learned. When they finished, they stood together. Nobody spoke. They did not need to. A guard banged on the door. "Formation in 5 minutes." The women moved quickly. They hid the remaining supplies under loose boards and inside rolled blankets. They straightened their uniforms. They formed lines outside. The morning count began. The guard walked between them. He looked bored. He did not notice anything different. He marked his clipboard and walked away. After he left, the women returned to their barracks. One woman hugged Emmy tightly. Emmy started crying again. Another woman touched her shoulder. They stood together in the dim light. Aki walked to the small window. She looked toward the fence. The road beyond was empty. The American medic was not there. She did not know his name, but she knew what he was. He was a man who saw them as human. In this place, that was everything. "Will he come back?" Emmy asked. Aki did not turn around. "I don't know. We should thank him." "We cannot," Aki said. "It would endanger him." Emmy was quiet. Then she spoke again. "What if they find out?" Aki turned. She looked at the women around her. They looked stronger than yesterday. Not much, but enough. "Then we protect him," Aki said, "the way he protected us." The women nodded. They did not know how, but they agreed. The supply depot sat behind the main camp. White nurses moved between shelves. They checked inventory and filled requisition forms. The depot was organized. Everything had a place. Everything was counted. Nurse Helen Morrison pulled a box from the shelf. It was labeled sanitary supplies. She opened it and frowned. She counted the contents twice. Then she checked her clipboard. "We're short," she said. The supply clerk looked up. He was young and thin. Sweat stained his shirt. "Short of what?" "Pads," Helen said. 6 missing, maybe more. The clerk walked over. He checked the log. His finger traced the entries. "Says here we distributed standard amounts," he said. "Then someone took extras," Helen said. "Or someone didn't log it properly." She set the box down hard. The clerk flinched. Helen was known for her sharp tongue. She ran the medical supplies like a general ran troops. Nothing escaped her notice. "I'll check the distribution. Records," the clerk said. "You do that," Helen said, "and check who had access this week." She walked to the office tent. Lieutenant Harker was reviewing paperwork. He looked up when she entered. "Lieutenant, we have a problem." Harker set down his pen. "What kind of problem?" "Inventory discrepancies. Medical supplies." Harker's expression hardened. "How much?" "Not much, but it's irregular. Someone's taking things without proper documentation." Harker stood. He walked to the filing cabinet and pulled out the duty roster. He scanned the names. His finger stopped on one entry. "The quartermaster unit," he said. "They've been running POW deliveries." Helen crossed her arms. The colored boys? Yes. Helen's mouth tightened. You think they're stealing? Harker did not answer immediately. He looked at the roster again. Then he looked at Helen. I think we need to watch them more carefully. Helen nodded. I'll keep tracking inventory. She left. Harker sat down again. He stared at the roster. Corporal James Carter's name stood out. He had medical training, he had access, he had opportunity. Harker pulled out a blank sheet. He wrote orders for discreet monitoring. He signed it and sealed it. He called for a runner. Deliver this to the MPs at the POW compound, he said. Tell them to observe all supply deliveries. I want reports. The runner saluted and left. Harker leaned back in his chair. He rubbed his temples. Theft was bad. Fraternization was worse. If a black soldier was getting too close to enemy prisoners, it would mean trouble. The kind of trouble that ended careers. Or lives. He picked up his pen again. He made a note in his personal log. Monitor Carter. Possible unauthorized contact with POWs. Outside, the sun beat down. The camp continued its routine. Nobody knew yet. But the net was closing. The mess hall filled with noise. Metal trays clattered. Men shouted over each other. Carter sat at the end of a long table. Eli sat across from him. They ate canned stew and hard bread. Neither spoke much. At the next table, white soldiers played cards. One of them laughed too loud. Carter glanced over. The soldier was young. Red hair, sunburned face. He slapped down a card and grinned. Heard something funny today? The soldier said. His friends looked up. What's that? Colored boys getting real friendly with the Jap girls. The table went quiet for a second. Then someone laughed. It was forced. Uncomfortable. That right? Another soldier said. That's the rumor, the redhead said. MPs are watching them now. Carter's hand tightened around his fork. He kept eating. He did not look up. Across from him, Eli's eyes met his. Eli shook his head slightly. A warning. The redhead kept talking. Can you imagine? Enemy prisoners. Women prisoners. And these boys think they can just... Shut up, Murphy, another soldier said. You don't know anything. Murphy shrugged. I know what I heard. Carter finished his food. He stood and carried his tray to the wash station. Eli followed. They walked outside. The night air was thick. Crickets sang in the grass. They walked toward their tent. You hear that? Eli said quietly. Yeah. They're watching us. Carter stopped walking. He looked at the sky. Stars were scattered above. The same stars that shone over the POW compound, over the barracks where Aki and Emmy slept, over the fence that separated them all. I know, Carter said. Then you know we have to stop, Eli said. Carter turned to face him. You think those women don't need help anymore? I think we can't help them if we're dead, Eli said. Or court-martialed. Or worse. Carter was quiet. 2 white MPs walked past. They nodded at Carter and Eli. Their faces showed nothing, but their eyes lingered too long. See, Eli whispered. They're already watching. Carter watched the MPs disappear into the darkness. He felt the weight of it now. The danger was real. It was close. Miles had been right. A black man had no protection. Not here, not anywhere. What do we do? Eli asked. Carter did not answer. He walked to the tent and went inside. He sat on his cot. Around him, other soldiers prepared for sleep. They joked. They wrote letters. They cleaned their boots. Normal things. Carter envied them. Eli sat down beside him. Talk to me. I don't know what to do, Carter said. I just know I can't stop seeing them. Those women, standing in the dirt, bleeding, ashamed. You did something good, Eli said, but now it's done. You can't save everyone. I'm not trying to save everyone, Carter said. Just the ones in front of me. Eli sighed. He stood and walked to his own cot. Lights out was called. The tent went dark. Carter lay down. He stared at the canvas above. Outside, boots crunched on gravel, guards on patrol, or MPs watching. He could not tell anymore. Sleep would not come. His mind raced. He prayed again, the same prayer. Help me do what's right, even if it costs me everything. No answer came. Just darkness and the sound of breathing around him. Morning formation was tense. Lieutenant Harker stood at the front. His face was stone. Behind him, 2 MPs waited. Carter stood in line. Sweat ran down his back. It was not from the heat. "Corporal Carter," Harker said. "Private Brooks, step forward." Carter's chest tightened. He stepped out of line. Eli followed. The other soldiers watched. Nobody spoke. Harker looked at them both. "Follow me." They walked to the command tent. Inside, it was cooler. A fan rattled in the corner. Harker sat behind a desk. He did not invite them to sit. Sergeant Miles stood near the door. His face was blank. Harker opened a folder. He pulled out a paper. "There have been reports. Irregular behavior. Supply discrepancies. Do you know what I'm talking about?" Carter kept his face neutral. "No, sir." "Medical supplies," Harker said. "Going missing. Around the same time you two started POW runs." Eli shifted. His weight. Harker's eyes moved to him. "Something to say, Private?" "No, sir," Eli said. Harker looked back at Carter. "You're a medic. You have access. You've been inside the compound multiple times. What are you doing in there?" "Delivering supplies, sir," Carter said. "Following orders." "Just following orders?" "Yes, sir." Harker leaned back. He studied Carter's face. Carter did not blink. He had learned long ago how to hide what he felt. Growing up in Mississippi taught him that. The Army reinforced it. "Let me be clear," Harker said. "You are being watched. Every move, every delivery. If I find out you've been taking supplies without authorization, you'll face charges. If I find out you've been fraternizing with prisoners, it'll be worse. Much worse. Do you understand?" "Yes, sir," Carter said. "And you?" Harker looked at Eli. "Yes, sir," Eli said. Harker closed the folder. "You're dismissed, but stay available. I'm not done with this." Carter saluted. Eli did the same. They turned and walked out. The sun hit them hard. Carter blinked. They walked in silence until they were alone behind the supply shed. "That was a warning," Eli said. "I know. He's going to keep watching." "I know," Carter said again. Eli grabbed his arm. "Then you know we're done. No more. We can't risk it." Carter pulled his arm free. He looked toward the road, the one that led to the compound. He could not see it from here, but he knew it was there. "They're still bleeding," Carter said quietly. "And we're still black," Eli said, "in a white man's army. You want to die for this?" Carter did not answer. He walked away. He went to his tent. He sat on his cot. He pulled out his Bible. The pages fell open to a marked passage. "Blessed are those who hunger and thirst for righteousness." He closed the book. He looked at his hands. They were steady, but inside he felt the barbed wire closing in, tighter, sharper. He had crossed a line. Now the line was crossing back. Outside, boots crunched on gravel. Someone walked past the tent. Carter listened. The footsteps stopped. Then they moved on. He was being watched. He knew it now. Every moment, every breath. The question was no longer whether he would get caught. The question was when, and what it would cost. He lay back on his cot. He stared at the canvas. And he waited for whatever came next. 3 days passed. Carter was assigned back to POW deliveries. Harker watched him personally now. 2 MPs stood near the gate during every supply run. Carter unloaded crates under their eyes. He kept his face blank. He did not look at the women. On the fourth day, Harker approached him. "Corporal, you have medical training." "Yes, sir." "These prisoners need basic hygiene instruction," Harker said. "Disease prevention. You'll give supervised lectures. Weekly. Understood?" Carter blinked. He had expected punishment. Not this. "Yes, sir." "An interpreter will assist," Harker said. "Keep it professional. Medical only. The MPs will be present." Carter nodded. He did not trust this. But he had no choice. The first lecture was scheduled for midday. Carter prepared notes on basic sanitation. He gathered charts and diagrams. When he arrived at the compound, the women stood in rows outside their barracks. Guards surrounded them. Aki stood at the front. "You will translate," an MP told her. Aki nodded. She looked at Carter. Her face showed nothing, but her eyes held something else. Recognition, gratitude, warning. Carter cleared his throat. "Good afternoon. I'm here to discuss hygiene and disease prevention." Aki translated. The women listened. Some looked confused. Others looked afraid. They were not used to being addressed directly. Carter explained hand washing. He demonstrated proper technique using a bucket of clean water. He talked about contaminated water sources. He explained wound care. He kept his voice steady and professional. Aki translated each sentence. Her voice was calm. She added nothing extra. But sometimes she looked at him. Their eyes met for half a second. Then she looked away. Emmy stood in the second row. She watched Carter carefully. When he mentioned menstrual hygiene, she blushed. But she did not look away. She listened. Carter explained the importance of clean materials. He spoke about infection risks. He did not mention the pads he had given them. He did not need to. The women knew. One woman raised her hand. Aki translated her question. "What if we have no clean materials?" Carter paused. The MPs watched him. He chose his words carefully. "You should request proper supplies through official channels," he said. The woman nodded. She looked disappointed but not surprised. The lecture ended after 30 minutes. Carter packed his materials. The women filed back into their barracks. Aki remained behind. An MP stood 10 feet away. "Thank you," Aki said in English. "This helps," Carter nodded. "It's my duty." "Yes," Aki said. She smiled slightly. "Your duty." She turned and walked away. Carter watched her go. For the first time in days, the tightness in his chest eased. This was not what he wanted to do, but it was something. It was contact. It was help. Maybe it was enough. He climbed into the truck. The convoy rolled back to camp. Through the canvas, he saw the compound fence receding. The barbed wire gleamed in the afternoon sun. But today it felt less sharp, less final. Maybe there was still a way forward, a careful way, a way that did not end in disaster. He hoped. The watchtower stood 30 feet high. Private Danny Walsh climbed the ladder with his rifle and binoculars. He was young, only 19. He had joined the army to see the world. Instead, he got stuck on an island watching prisoners. He settled into his position. The afternoon was quiet. Below, the compound spread out in neat rows. The women moved between barracks. Some sat in the shade. Others washed clothes in buckets. Walsh pulled out a cigarette. He lit it and inhaled. The smoke tasted bitter in the humid air. He lifted his binoculars and scanned the compound. Nothing interesting. Just women doing women things. Then he saw movement near the fence. The black medic. Carter. He was back. Walsh sat up straighter. He had orders to watch this one. Carter stood near the gate with a crate. An MP checked his papers. The medic nodded and entered. Walsh watched through the binoculars. Carter set down the crate. He pulled out packages wrapped in brown paper. Walsh adjusted the focus. Carter handed something to the Japanese nurse, the older one who spoke English. She took it carefully. Carter said something. The nurse nodded. Walsh could not hear the words, but he saw the exchange. It looked innocent. Medical supplies, official business, but something about it felt wrong. The way they looked at each other. Too long, too deliberate. Walsh lowered the binoculars. He thought for a moment. Then he pulled out a camera from his pack. It was small. Army issue, used for reconnaissance photos. He raised it to his eye. Through the viewfinder, he found Carter again. The medic was handing the nurse another package. Walsh pressed the shutter. Click. The camera captured the moment. The image would be grainy. The distance was too far for perfect clarity. But it showed enough. A black soldier. A Japanese woman. An exchange of items. Walsh took 3 more photos. Different angles. Different moments. Each one showed the same thing. Contact, interaction. Things that could be misunderstood. He lowered the camera. His hands trembled slightly. He was not sure why. Carter had not done anything obviously wrong. The exchange looked medical, professional. But Walsh had his orders. Watch and report. He finished his cigarette. He put the camera back in his pack. Below, Carter was leaving. The truck convoy rolled toward the gate. The Japanese nurse stood watching. She held the packages against her chest. Walsh climbed down the ladder. He walked to the MP station. Sergeant Davis sat behind a desk. "Got something?" Walsh said. Davis looked up. "What?" Walsh pulled out the camera. "Photos. The medic and the prisoners. Might be nothing. Might be something." Davis took the camera. He examined it. "I'll develop these tonight. Good work, Walsh." Walsh nodded. He left and walked back to his barracks. He felt strange. Not proud. Not guilty. Just empty. He told himself he was following orders. That was all. Following orders. But deep down, he knew what those photos could do. And he was not sure he cared. The infirmary tent was small. 2 cots, 1 table, limited supplies. Aki worked alone most days. She treated minor injuries and illnesses. She did what she could with what she had. Today, a woman named Yuki lay on one of the cots. She was older, maybe 40. Her face was pale. Sweat soaked her shirt. Aki knelt beside her. "How long have you been bleeding?" Aki asked in Japanese. 2 days, Yuki whispered. "It won't stop." Aki lifted the blanket. Blood stained the sheets. Too much blood. Aki's chest tightened. She had seen this before, in Tokyo, in the hospital. Miscarriage, incomplete, dangerous. She pressed a clean cloth between Yuki's legs. The blood soaked through immediately. Aki grabbed another cloth. Her hands moved automatically. Years of training took over. Emmy appeared at the tent entrance. Her eyes widened when she saw the blood. "Get help," Aki said. "Tell the guards we need a doctor." Emmy ran. Aki stayed with Yuki. She checked her pulse. Too fast. Weak. Yuki's eyes fluttered closed. "Stay with me," Aki said. "Stay awake." Yuki nodded weakly. Tears ran down her face. "I did not know. I did not know I was pregnant." Aki squeezed her hand. Many women did not know. Stress, starvation, trauma. These things disrupted the body, made signs unclear. Yuki was not the first. She would not be the last. A guard appeared. He looked at the scene. His face went pale. "She needs a doctor," Aki said in broken English. "Hospital, now." The guard hesitated. "I'll call someone." He left. Minutes passed. Aki kept pressure on the bleeding. Yuki's breathing grew shallow. Other women gathered outside the tent. They whispered in Japanese. Fear spread quickly. Finally, an American doctor arrived. He was white, Middle-aged, he carried a medical bag. He examined Yuki quickly. His face was grim. "Miscarriage," he said. "She needs surgery. We'll transport her to the main hospital." 2 medics arrived with a stretcher. They lifted Yuki carefully. Blood dripped onto the floor. The women outside gasped. One started crying. Another covered her mouth. Aki watched them carry Yuki away. She stood alone in the tent. Blood covered her hands. She walked to the water barrel and washed. The water turned pink. Emmy returned. "Will she live?" "I don't know," Aki said. Outside, the whispers grew louder. Aki heard fragments. She was pregnant. Who was the father? An American? A guard? Aki's stomach dropped. She understood now. The danger was not just medical. It was political. If rumors spread that American soldiers had impregnated prisoners, there would be investigations, accusations, trials, and Carter would be the first suspect, the black medic who had been visiting, who had been giving them things, who had shown them kindness. Aki walked outside. The women surrounded her. She raised her hand for silence. "Yuki was pregnant before we came here," Aki said firmly. "Before the surrender. Before the Americans. This has nothing to do with them." Some women nodded. Others looked uncertain. Aki repeated it. "Before we came here, understand?" They understood. But rumors did not care about truth. Rumors spread faster than facts, and somewhere beyond the fence, people were watching. People who wanted reasons to punish, to accuse, to destroy. Aki looked toward the gate. She thought about Carter, about his kind eyes, about the risk he had taken. She prayed he would stay away now, for his own sake, before it was too late. Lieutenant Harker sat in his office. Rain hammered the tin roof. He stared at 3 photographs spread across his desk. Each one showed the same thing. Corporal Carter handing items to the Japanese nurse. The images were grainy. The distance made details unclear, but the implication was obvious. Sergeant Davis stood at attention. "Sir, the photos were taken yesterday. Private Walsh was on watchtower duty." Harker picked up one photo. He held it close. Carter's face was visible. So was the woman's. They stood close. Too close for purely professional interaction. "What was he giving her?" Harker asked. "Unknown, sir. Could be medical supplies. Could be something else." Harker set down the photo. He rubbed his eyes. He had not slept well. The rain kept him awake. "Now this." "There's more, sir," Davis said. "One of the prisoners had a medical emergency yesterday. Miscarriage." Harker looked up sharply. "Miscarriage?" "Yes, sir. The doctor said she was several weeks along. Maybe more." Harker felt his stomach tighten. A pregnant prisoner. A black soldier making unauthorized contact. The photographs. It all added up to disaster. "Has anyone suggested Carter was involved?" Harker asked. "Not directly, sir. But rumors are starting. You know how men talk." Harker knew. In a camp full of bored soldiers, rumors spread faster than malaria. And this rumor would be explosive. A black man and an enemy woman. Pregnancy. It did not matter if it was true. The accusation alone would destroy Carter, and Harker's command would be questioned for allowing it. A knock came at the door. A runner entered with a telegram. Harker took it and read. His face hardened. "What is it, sir?" Davis asked. "Division headquarters. They've heard something. They want a report on camp discipline, specifically regarding fraternization between troops and POWs." Harker crumpled the telegram. Someone higher up was already asking questions. That meant someone was watching him, judging him, waiting for him to fail. He could not afford failure. Not now. Not when the war was ending and promotions were being decided. Not when his career depended on maintaining perfect order. "Bring Carter in," Harker said. "Confine him to barracks pending investigation." Davis hesitated. Sir, we have no proof he did anything wrong. I have photographs, Harker said. He tapped the images. I have rumors. I have a pregnant prisoner. That's enough to justify an investigation. But, sir, that's an order, Sergeant. Davis saluted stiffly. Yes, sir. He left. Harker sat alone. He looked at the photographs again. Carter's face stared back at him. There was something in the medic's expression, something Harker recognized but did not want to name. Compassion, humanity, things that complicated discipline. Harker gathered the photos. He put them in a folder. He locked the folder in his desk drawer. Outside, the rain fell, harder. Thunder rolled across the island. Lightning flashed. Harker stood and walked to the window. He watched water pour from the sky. He thought about justice, about order, about the difference between the two. Then he pushed the thought away. He had his orders. He would follow them, even if it meant destroying a good man. That was war. That was command. That was survival. The rain pounded the barracks roof. Carter sat on his cot. His hands rested on his knees. Sergeant Miles stood near the door. His face was stone. Outside, thunder cracked. You're confined, Miles said. Harker's orders, pending investigation. Carter nodded slowly. He had expected this. Ever since the watchtower, ever since the warnings, he had known it would come. What am I accused of? Carter asked. Unauthorized fraternization, theft of military property, maybe more. I helped sick people, Carter said. That's all. Miles stepped closer. His voice dropped. That's not what it looks like in those photographs. Carter's head snapped up. What photographs? MPs took pictures, you and that nurse, handing her things. They're calling it evidence. Carter stood, his jaw clenched. Evidence of what? Doing my job? Evidence of whatever they want it to be, Miles said. You're a black man fraternizing with the enemy. That's how they'll see it. That's how everyone will see it. Carter turned away. He walked to the small window. Rain streamed down the glass. Beyond it, the camp was gray and blurred. He thought about Aki, about Emmy, about the women in the compound. They would suffer now. The supplies would stop. The lectures would end. Everything would go back to how it was before. One of the prisoners had a miscarriage, Miles said quietly. Carter closed his eyes. And they think I'm responsible. They're asking questions. I never touched those women, Carter said. Not once. I gave them medical supplies. Basic human dignity, that's all. I believe you, Miles said. But belief doesn't matter. Appearance matters. And it looks bad. Carter turned back. So what happens now? You stay here. You don't talk to anyone. Harker will investigate. If he finds nothing, you'll be reprimanded and reassigned. If he finds something... Miles paused. If he finds something, it's a court-martial. The word hung in the air. Court-martial. Carter had seen it happen before. Black soldiers accused of crimes, real or imagined. The trials were quick, the punishments severe. He knew how this ended. Eli entered the barracks. Water dripped from his uniform. He looked at Carter, then at Miles. Is it true? Eli asked. He's confined, Miles said. Investigation pending. Eli sat down hard on his cot. He put his head in his hands. I told you this would happen. Carter said nothing. There was nothing to say. Eli had been right. Miles had been right. Everyone had warned him. But he had done it anyway. Because he could not stand by. Because his conscience demanded action. Because he believed in something more than survival. Now he would pay for it. Outside, the rain intensified. The barracks grew dark. Men whispered in corners. They looked at Carter differently now. some with pity, some with anger, some with fear that his trouble would spread to them. Carter sat back down. He pulled out his Bible. The pages were damp from humidity. He opened to Psalms. "The Lord is my shepherd, I shall not want." The words blurred. He wiped his eyes. He was not crying. He told himself he was not crying. But his chest ached. His hands trembled. He had tried to do good. He had tried to help. And now he was alone. Trapped. Accused of crimes he did not commit. Punished for compassion. The rain fell. Thunder rolled. Darkness came early. And Carter sat in silence, waiting for whatever judgment would come. The compound was quiet. No supply trucks had come in 3 days. The women noticed. They whispered among themselves. Something had changed. Something bad. Aki stood near the fence. She looked toward the gate. Empty road. No convoy, no American medic. She knew what it meant. Carter was gone. Removed. Possibly arrested. Emmy approached. Her face was worried. "No supplies today?" "No," Aki said. "Why?" Aki turned to face her. "Because they think we did something wrong. They think he did something wrong." Emmy's eyes widened. "But he only helped us." "I know," Aki said, "but help can look like other things, especially when people want to see wrongdoing." Inside the barracks, the reality set in quickly. The sanitary pads were running out. The soap was gone. The small dignity they had regained was slipping away. Women started tearing cloth again, washing it in dirty water, hiding the stains as best they could. One woman wept quietly. Another sat in silence. Emmy looked at them and felt rage building. This was not fair. They had done nothing wrong. Carter had done nothing wrong. But they were all being punished anyway. That afternoon, a new guard arrived. He was young and cruel. He laughed when he saw the women struggling. He made jokes about their condition. He reminded them they were prisoners, enemy prisoners. They deserved nothing. Aki watched him. Her face remained calm. But inside, something hardened. She had lived through war. She had survived bombing. She had watched her city burn. She had lost everything. But she had not lost her voice. That evening, she gathered the women. They sat in a circle inside the barracks. Aki stood in the center. "They punished him for helping us," Aki said in Japanese. "The American medic. They confined him. Maybe worse." The women murmured. Some looked scared. Others looked angry. "We cannot let him suffer alone," Aki continued. "He risked everything to give us dignity. Now we must defend him." "How?" one woman asked. "We are prisoners. We have no power." Aki smiled grimly. "We have truth. And we have courage. That is enough." Emmy stood. "What do you want us to do?" Aki looked at each woman. She saw fear. But she also saw strength. These women had survived hell. They could survive this, too. "Tomorrow, at inspection, we make a statement," Aki said. "We show them what he gave us. We show them we are not ashamed. We show them he treated us with humanity." "They will punish us," another woman said. "Perhaps," Aki said, "but they are already punishing us. At least this way we fight back." The women looked at each other. Slowly, one by one, they nodded. They understood. This was bigger than comfort, bigger than safety. This was about honor, about standing up for someone who had stood up for them. Emmy spoke. "I will do it. I will stand with him." "I will too," another woman said. Soon, all of them agreed. They would risk punishment. They would risk humiliation, because Carter had risked everything for them, and they would not let his sacrifice be meaningless. Aki felt tears on her face. She wiped them away. "Tomorrow, then. We stand together." The women dispersed. They prepared quietly. They hid the remaining sanitary pads in their clothing. They rehearsed what they would do, what they would say. Outside, darkness fell. Guards patrolled. The camp settled into uneasy sleep. But inside the women's barracks, no one slept. They waited. They prayed. They gathered their courage. Tomorrow would change everything, for better or worse. But they would face it together. Night deepened. The women lay in their bunks. Nobody slept. Aki stared at the ceiling. Beside her, Emmy shifted restlessly. Around them, others breathed quietly, waiting. Finally, Emmy whispered, "Are you afraid?" Aki turned her head. In the darkness, she could barely see Emmy's face. "Yes," Aki said, "I am afraid." "Then why do this?" Aki was quiet for a moment. She thought about her life before the war, before the bombs, before the surrender. She had been a nurse. She had taken an oath. First, do no harm, but also speak for those who cannot speak. "Because silence is worse than fear," Aki said. Emmy nodded. She understood. They had been silent for so long. Silent during inspections. Silent during humiliation. Silent when guards laughed. Silent when dignity was stripped away piece by piece. Tomorrow they would break that silence. Another woman sat up. Her name was Hana. She was the oldest among them, almost 50. Her hair was white. "I have a daughter," Hana said softly. "Back in Japan. I do not know if she is alive, but if she is, I want her to know her mother was brave. At least once." Other women stirred. One by one they sat up. They looked at each other in the dim light. "My husband died in the war," another woman said. "I have no one left, but I can do this, for the medic who saw us as human." Emmy spoke. "I was ashamed. Every day, every month, bleeding through my clothes while men laughed. I wanted to disappear, but he gave us dignity. I will not let them take that away." The women nodded. They each had their reasons. Each had their pain. But together, they had strength. Aki stood. She walked to the center of the room. The moonlight came through cracks in the wall. It cast silver lines across the floor. "Tomorrow we wear the sanitary pads visibly," Aki said. "Outside our clothing, where everyone can see. It will look strange. It will be embarrassing. But it will show the truth. He gave us medical supplies, not gifts, not contraband, medical necessities." "What if they punish us?" Hana asked. "Then we accept punishment," Aki said. "Together." "What if they do not believe us?" "Then at least we tried," Aki said. "At least we spoke." The women were silent. Then, slowly, they began to move. They retrieved the hidden pads. They helped each other attach them to the outside of their uniforms. White cotton against gray fabric, visible, deliberate, unmistakable. They looked ridiculous. They knew it. But they also looked brave. Emmy stood and examined herself. The pad showed clearly on her skirt. She looked at Aki. Then she smiled. It was a sad smile, but also defiant. "Tomorrow," Emmy said. "Tomorrow," the others echoed. They returned to their bunks. This time some slept, others prayed, others simply waited for dawn. Outside, guards changed shifts. Rain clouds gathered again. Thunder rumbled in the distance. The island breathed. The ocean rolled. The war was over, but the fight for dignity continued. And in a small barracks on a forgotten island, 28 Japanese women prepared to risk everything for a Black American medic they barely knew. Because he had seen them. Really seen them. As human beings worthy of basic care. And that was worth fighting for. Morning came gray and humid. Reveille sounded across the compound. The women rose. They helped each other dress. The white pads stood out starkly against their uniforms. They looked at each other. Some laughed nervously. Others remained silent. "Are we ready?" Aki asked. They nodded. They formed a line at the door. Their hearts pounded, but their faces were calm. Outside, guards called for morning inspection. The women filed out. They stood in formation on the parade ground. The guards noticed immediately. Their eyes widened. One guard pointed. Another laughed. Then stopped. Lieutenant Harker was present. He had come to oversee the investigation. He stood near the gate with Sergeant Davis. When he saw the women, he froze. 28 Japanese prisoners stood in perfect formation. Each one wore a sanitary pad attached visibly to her uniform. White cotton badges of protest. Impossible to miss. Impossible to misunderstand. "What is this?" Harker demanded. Aki stepped forward. She stood at attention. Her voice was clear. "We wear what the American medic gave us, sir. Medical supplies. For hygiene, for health, for dignity." Harker's face reddened. "Get back in formation." Aki did not move. "He is accused. We defend him. He gave us only what doctors give, nothing more." Other women stepped forward. They stood beside Aki. Emi was among them. Hana was there, all of them, united. "He helped us stay human," Emi said in broken English. "He good man?" The guards looked uncertain. This was not a riot, not violence, just women standing, wearing medical supplies, making a statement. Harker's jaw tightened. He could order them back. He could punish them. But doing so would prove their point, would show that helping enemy prisoners with basic hygiene was somehow wrong, was somehow criminal. A jeep pulled up. The chaplain stepped out. Captain William Cross. He was older, gray-haired. He had seen action in Europe. He walked toward the scene slowly. "What's happening here, Lieutenant?" Cross asked. Harker gestured angrily. "Protest. Insubordination." Cross looked at the women. He saw the pads. He saw their faces. Then he saw Aki. She met his eyes steadily. "They are defending someone," Cross said quietly. "They are interfering with an investigation," Harker snapped. "Or they are testifying," Cross said, "which is their right, even as prisoners." Harker turned to him. "Testifying to what?" "To the character of the man you've confined," Cross said. "To the nature of his actions." At that moment, Sergeant Miles arrived. He had brought Carter. The medic was under guard. His hands were not bound, but 2 MPs flanked him. Carter saw the women. His eyes widened. He saw what they were doing, what they were risking. "No," he said quietly. "Don't." But the women did not move. Aki looked at him. She bowed slightly. The other women bowed, a gesture of respect, of gratitude, of solidarity. Harker stared at the scene. His investigation had just become complicated. Very complicated. He had photographs of medical supplies being distributed. He had rumors of pregnancy unrelated to Carter. And now he had prisoners publicly defending the accused. He had wanted simple guilt, clear violation, easy punishment. Instead, he had moral complexity, witnesses, questions about what constituted criminality versus compassion. Captain Cross stepped closer to Harker. He spoke low. "You have a choice, Lieutenant. You can punish everyone here, the medic, the prisoners, make an example, or you can acknowledge that sometimes mercy is not a crime." Harker's hands clenched. He looked at Carter, then at the women, then at the growing crowd of soldiers watching. This moment would define him, his command, his career. The sky darkened. Thunder rolled. Rain began to fall. The women stood unmoving. Water soaked their uniforms. The white pads became visible through the fabric. But they did not break formation. Harker turned away. "Sergeant Miles, escort the prisoners back to their barracks. Corporal Carter, you remain confined. I need to think." He walked toward his office. The rain fell harder. The women filed back inside. But their message had been sent, and everyone had seen it. The inspection scene ended, but the image remained. 28 women standing in the rain. white badges of protest against gray uniforms, water streaming down their faces, dignity worn like armor. Captain Cross watched them file back to their barracks. Then he turned to Harker's retreating figure. He followed the lieutenant to his office. Sergeant Miles was already there. So was Carter, standing under guard. Cross closed the door behind him. Rain hammered the roof. Harker sat behind his desk. His face was tight. "You wanted to speak with me, sir?" Cross asked. Harker looked up. "I want this situation resolved. Cleanly." "There is no clean resolution to injustice," Cross said. Harker's jaw clenched. "Watch yourself, Captain." "I am watching," Cross said. "I'm watching a good man be destroyed for showing compassion. I'm watching prisoners risk punishment to defend him. I'm watching you choose between career and conscience." Miles stepped forward. "Sir, if I may speak." Harker waved his hand tiredly. "Go ahead." "I've known Corporal Carter for 2 years," Miles said. "He's never been insubordinate, never caused trouble. He's a medic. He helps people. That's his nature. That's his calling." "He violated protocol," Harker said. "He saw suffering and responded," Cross said. "Is that a crime now? Is mercy illegal?" Harker stood. He walked to the window. Outside, rain turned the camp to mud. He watched soldiers run for cover. Everything was gray. Everything was complicated. "There are photographs," Harker said quietly. "There are rumors. There was a pregnancy." "The pregnancy had nothing to do with Carter," Miles said. The doctor confirmed the timeline. That woman was pregnant before capture, before American contact. "And the photographs show medical distribution," Cross added. "Sanitary supplies, exactly what those prisoners just demonstrated. Where is the crime?" Harker turned. "The crime is in the appearance, in the breach of segregation, in a black soldier getting too close to enemy prisoners." The words hung in the air. Carter flinched. There it was. The truth underneath. Not about protocols, not about theft, about race, about fear, about power. Cross stepped closer to Harker. "I was at Normandy. I saw men die, black and white. When the bullets flew, nobody cared about skin color. We needed everyone. We valued everyone." He paused. Rain filled the silence. "The war is over," Cross continued. "Japan surrendered. These women are not enemies anymore. They are just human beings in need, and this man helped them. If we punish that, what does it say about us? What does it say about the America we claim to be building?" Harker closed his eyes. He thought about the telegram from headquarters, about division commanders waiting for his report, about career advancement, about reputation. But he also thought about the women standing in the rain, about their courage, about what they risked to defend a stranger, about what that said regarding Carter's true character. "I need time," Harker said finally. "Everyone out. I need to think." Cross nodded. Miles saluted. They left. Carter remained under guard. The MP led him back to the barracks. The rain followed them. Thunder cracked overhead. Inside his office, Harker sat alone. He pulled out the photographs. He stared at them. In the grainy images, he saw a man handing supplies to a woman. Nothing more. Nothing less. Just mercy captured on film. He set the photos down. He put his head in his hands. And for the first time in years, Lieutenant Harker prayed. The afternoon stretched long. Harker remained in his office. He dismissed his clerk. He locked the door. He sat alone with the photographs and his thoughts. Rain continued. It softened to a steady drizzle. Water dripped from the roof. The sound was hypnotic, relentless. Harker stared at the photos spread across his desk. In one image, Carter stood near the fence. His posture was professional, clinical. In another, Aki received something from him. Her face showed gratitude, not romance, not conspiracy, just simple human thankfulness. Harker picked up a third photo. This one was taken from farther away. It showed the full scene. Other prisoners in the background, an MP visible at the edge, everything supervised, nothing hidden, nothing illicit. He set it down. He rubbed his temples. A headache pulsed behind his eyes. He thought about his career. 3 years in the Pacific, 2 promotions, commendations for efficiency and discipline. His record was spotless. If he handled this wrong, it would all disappear. Division would question his judgment. His command would be scrutinized. His future would dim. But if he handled it right, what did that mean? Court-martialing Carter? Punishing the prisoners? Making an example that would echo through the camp? Proving that compassion was weakness? That mercy was crime? Harker stood. He walked to the window again. The rain had stopped. Sunlight broke through clouds. Steam rose from the muddy ground. Everything looked clean, washed, new. He thought about home, about Virginia, about the small town where he grew up. He remembered his father. A judge, stern but fair. His father had told him once that law and justice were not always the same thing. "Sometimes the law is wrong," his father had said. "When that happens, a man must choose what he can live with." Harker had not understood then. He was young, idealistic. He believed rules were absolute. Order was sacred. Obedience was everything. But war had taught him differently. War showed him that rules could be cruel, that order could be unjust, that blind obedience led to atrocities. He turned back to his desk. He picked up the photographs. One by one, he looked at them. Carter's face. Aki's face. The exchange. The evidence that was not evidence. The crime that was not a crime. He thought about the women standing in the rain. Their silent protest. Their visible declaration. They had more courage than most soldiers he knew, and they used it to defend a man they barely knew, because he had shown them basic human decency. What would his father do? Harker knew the answer. His father would follow his conscience. His father would choose justice over law. His father would accept the consequences. Harker picked up the first photograph. He held it over the trash bin. His hand trembled. This was his evidence, his justification, his protection. Without it, he had nothing to show headquarters, nothing to prove he had investigated thoroughly, nothing to cover himself. He tore the photograph in half, then in half again. The pieces fell into the bin. He picked up the second photograph. He tore it. Then the third. Each one destroyed, each piece of false evidence eliminated, until only scraps remained. He sat down. He pulled out fresh paper. He wrote new orders. Resume standard supply deliveries to POW compound. Include appropriate medical and hygiene supplies for female prisoners. Corporal Carter is reprimanded for minor protocol breach, but cleared of serious charges. No court-martial recommended. He signed it. His hand was steady now. The headache faded. He felt lighter, freer. He had made his choice. He would face whatever came, but he would face it knowing he had done the right thing. He stood and walked to the door. He opened it. His clerk looked up. "File this," Harker said. He handed over the orders. "And bring me Corporal Carter." The clerk took the paper. He read it quickly. His eyes widened. "Sir, are you—" "Just do it," Harker said. The clerk left. Harker returned to his desk. He looked at the torn photographs in the trash. Evidence destroyed. Truth preserved. He smiled slightly. His father would be proud. Outside, the sun broke through completely. The rain was over. The island steamed. And somewhere in the distance, Harker heard birds singing. The next morning, Carter was summoned. An MP escorted him to the supply depot. Not to Harker's office, to the main desk. Carter's stomach tightened. He expected the worst. A white clerk sat behind the desk. He looked up when Carter arrived. His expression was neutral. He pulled out a folder and opened it. "Corporal Carter," the clerk said, "you've been cleared of major charges." Carter blinked. "Sir?" "Lieutenant Harker's investigation concluded. You're guilty of a minor protocol violation. Failure to properly log certain supply distributions. You'll receive a formal reprimand. It goes in your record." The clerk pulled out a paper. He turned it so Carter could read. Official letterhead. Harker's signature. The words were careful, clinical, but clear. No court-martial. No criminal charges. Just administrative discipline. "You're also reinstated to limited duty," the clerk continued. "You'll resume supply deliveries to the POW compound, under supervision. No unauthorized contact with prisoners. Medical consultations only. In the presence of guards. Understood?" Carter's throat was tight. "Yes, sir." "Sign here." Carter took the pen. His hand shook, slightly. He signed his name. The clerk took the paper back. He stamped it and filed it. "You're dismissed, Corporal. Report to Sergeant Miles for duty assignment." Carter saluted. He turned and walked out. Sunlight hit his face. He stopped and closed his eyes. He breathed deeply. The air tasted clean, sweet, free. He had expected prison. He had expected dishonor. He had expected destruction. Instead, he got a reprimand, a slap on the wrist, a second chance. Why? He did not understand. But he did not question it. Some mercies were too fragile to examine closely. Better to accept them, to be grateful, to move forward. Eli found him outside the supply tent. "Is it true?" Carter nodded. "They cleared me, mostly." Eli grabbed his shoulders. "Thank God. Thank God." They stood together. Other soldiers walked past. Some glanced at Carter with curiosity, others with relief, a few with disappointment. Not everyone had wanted him to survive this. But he had. Somehow. Sergeant Miles appeared. "Carter, you're back on the roster. POW run this afternoon. Medical supplies, supervised. You ready?" Carter straightened. "Yes, Sergeant." "Good. Don't make me regret defending you." Miles walked away. Carter watched him go. He realized then. Miles had spoken for him. So had Captain Cross. Maybe others, people he did not know, people who believed in fairness, in mercy, in doing right. He was not alone. He had never been alone. He just had not seen it. That afternoon, he loaded supplies onto the truck. Sanitary pads, soap, bandages, all properly logged this time, all official, all authorized. He climbed into the truck. The engine started. The convoy rolled toward the compound. As they drove, Carter looked at the sky. Clouds moved slowly. The storm had passed. Everything looked clearer now, brighter. He did not know what would happen next. But for the first time in weeks, he felt hope. The truck reached the compound gate. Guards waved them through. Carter jumped down and started unloading. He worked quickly, efficiently. An MP watched from 10 feet away. Everything by the book now. But Carter allowed himself one small deviation. As he set down a crate near the fence, he looked toward the women's barracks. The door was open. Someone stood in the shadow just inside. Aki. Their eyes met for half a second. She nodded once. Carter nodded back. No words, no gestures, just acknowledgement, understanding, shared survival. Then he turned and continued working. The moment passed, but it was enough. The supply delivery took 30 minutes. Carter worked under the MP's watchful eye. He unloaded crates, he organized supplies, he filled out paperwork. Everything official, everything proper, everything clean. When he finished, the gate guard checked the inventory. He signed off. Carter climbed back into the truck. But before the engine started, a voice called out. "Corporal, Carter turned. A white medic approached. Specialist Morrison. He was young. Barely 20. He carried a small wooden box. "What is it?" Carter asked. Morrison looked uncomfortable. "I'm supposed to deliver this inside, medical supplies for the women, but I don't speak Japanese. You could help translate if you want. The MP already approved it." Carter glanced at the watching guard. The MP nodded. "Permission granted." Carter climbed down. He followed Morrison to the gate. They entered together. Aki was waiting near the supply tent. She saw Carter and stepped forward. Her face remained neutral, professional. "Medical delivery," Morrison said. He handed her the box. Aki took it. She opened the lid. Inside were bandages, iodine, aspirin, and tucked beneath them extra soap. More than regulation required. Someone had added it deliberately. Carter saw it. Aki saw it. Neither acknowledged it. "Thank you," Aki said in English. Morrison nodded. "You're welcome, ma'am." He turned to Carter. "Let's go." They walked back toward the gate. But as they passed near the fence, Aki spoke quietly. "He is well?" she asked. Carter paused. He was not supposed to engage, but the MP was several feet away. Morrison had stopped to check something on his clipboard. "Yes," Carter said quietly. "I'm well." "We are grateful," Aki said. "All of us." Carter nodded. He wanted to say more. He wanted to tell her that her courage had saved him, that the women's protest had changed everything, that he would never forget what they risked. But he said nothing. Sometimes silence spoke louder than words. He walked through the gate. The MP closed it behind them. Carter climbed into the truck. The engine roared to life. As they pulled away, he looked back. Aki stood near the fence. She held the box against her chest. Other women emerged from the barracks. They gathered around her. The truck turned a corner. The compound disappeared from view. Carter sat back. He closed his eyes. The mission was complete. The supplies were delivered. The women would have what they needed. At least for now. That evening, back at camp, Carter cleaned his equipment. Eli sat nearby. They did not talk much. The day had been long, emotional, draining. "Think you'll keep doing the deliveries?" Eli asked. "As long as they let me," Carter said. "Why, after everything?" Carter was quiet. He thought about the question. Why did it matter so much? Why risk everything again? Why care about enemy prisoners who would soon be repatriated anyway? "Because they're human," Carter said finally. "And sometimes being human is enough reason." Eli nodded. He did not argue. He had learned that some convictions could not be debated. They could only be respected. Night fell. The camp settled into routine. Guards changed shifts. Men played cards. Radios crackled with music and news. Japan was rebuilding. The occupation continued. Life moved forward. But in one small corner of the Pacific, on an island most people would forget, something had shifted. Not visibly, not dramatically, just quietly, like rain soaking into dry ground. Like seeds planted in dark soil, mercy had been shown, courage had been answered, dignity had been defended, and somehow, against all odds, it had been enough. 3 days passed. The women's barracks regained a rhythm. Supplies arrived regularly now. Soap, sanitary pads, clean water, small things, essential things. The women used them carefully, gratefully. Emmy sat on her bunk. She folded a clean cloth. Around her, others mended clothes and braided hair. The atmosphere was different now. Lighter, less oppressive. Guards still watched. Fences still surrounded them. But something internal had changed. Aki sat near the window. She wrote on a scrap of paper with a pencil stub. Another woman had traded cigarettes for it with a guard. Aki wrote slowly, carefully. Her English was limited, but she knew the important words. "What are you writing?" Emmy asked. "A message," Aki said, "for the medic." Other women looked up. They gathered around. Aki continued writing. Her handwriting was neat despite the rough paper. When she finished, she read it aloud. First in Japanese, then in broken English. "We know what you are. A good man. We will not forget. Thank you for seeing us. Thank you for helping us. We wish you peace." Emmy's eyes filled with tears. Other women nodded. One touched Aki's shoulder. The message was simple, but it carried the weight of everything: their gratitude, their respect, their acknowledgement of his sacrifice. "How will we give it to him?" Hana asked. "I will find a way," Aki said. That evening, during medical rounds, a different American doctor visited. He was older, kind-faced. He checked several women for lingering illnesses. Aki assisted as translator. When he finished, Aki spoke quietly. "Doctor, may I ask favor?" The doctor looked at her. "What kind of favor?" "There is American medic, Corporal Carter. He helped us. We wish to thank him. Could you deliver message?" The doctor hesitated. He glanced toward the guard, then back at Aki. "What kind of message?" Aki showed him the paper. The doctor read it. His expression softened. He folded it and put it in his pocket. "I'll make sure he gets it," the doctor said. "No promises when, but he'll get it." "Thank you," Aki whispered. The doctor nodded. He left. Aki watched him go. She did not know if he would keep his promise, but she had tried. That was all she could do. That night the women prepared to bathe. Clean water had been delivered. Real soap was available. For the first time in months, they could wash properly, completely, without shame. They took turns behind hanging blankets. They scrubbed their skin and hair. They helped each other reach difficult places. Steam filled the barracks. The air smelled of soap instead of sweat. Emmy stood under a stream of warm water. She closed her eyes. Tears mixed with bathwater. She thought about the journey that brought her here. The war, the capture, the humiliation. And then, unexpectedly, the kindness. A Black American soldier who saw past uniform and skin color, who saw past enemy designation, who saw only suffering and responded with compassion. It should not have been remarkable. But in this world, in this war, it was extraordinary. She finished bathing. She dried herself and dressed in clean clothes. She felt human again, whole again, worthy again. Around her, other women emerged from their baths. They looked different, refreshed, renewed. They smiled at each other. Small smiles, careful smiles, but real. They gathered in a circle. They did not pray aloud. Many had different beliefs, different gods, but they all shared the same hope, the same gratitude, the same recognition that they had witnessed something rare. "He will remember us?" one woman asked. "Yes," Aki said, "and we will remember him." They nodded. They would carry this memory forward, back to Japan, back to their families, back to their lives, wherever those lives led, and they would tell others about the American medic who helped enemy prisoners, about dignity in unlikely places, about humanity surviving even war. The story would live. It would spread. It would matter. That was enough. 5 days later, Carter was repairing medical kits in the supply tent. He checked bandage rolls and counted sulfur packets. The work was routine, calming. He needed calm after the chaos of the previous weeks. Footsteps approached. Carter looked up. Specialist Morrison stood there, the same white medic from the compound delivery. "Carter, got a minute?" Morrison asked. "Sure." Morrison glanced around. They were alone. He reached into his jacket and pulled out a folded piece of paper. "This is for you," Morrison said. "From the compound. One of the prisoners gave it to the doctor. He asked me to deliver it." Carter took the paper. It was rough, torn from something larger. His name was written on the outside in careful script. He looked at Morrison. "You read it?" "No," Morrison said. "None of my business. Just doing a favor." Morrison left. Carter stood alone. He unfolded the paper slowly. The handwriting was precise despite the poor materials. He read the words once, then again. "We know what you are. A good man. We will not forget. Thank you for seeing us. Thank you for helping us. We wish you peace." Carter's vision blurred. He folded the paper carefully. He pressed it against his chest. His throat was tight. His hands trembled. He had not expected this, had not expected them to risk contact again, had not expected their words to hit him so deeply. He walked to his tent. Eli was out. Carter was alone. He sat on his cot. He pulled out his Bible. The pages were worn, soft from handling. He opened to Psalms. He placed the note inside, between verses about righteousness and justice, about doing good, about standing firm. He closed the book. He held it for a long moment. Outside, the camp continued its rhythm. Men shouted, engines rumbled. Life moved forward. But Carter sat still, holding this small piece of paper, this evidence that his actions had mattered. He thought about home, about his mother, about the church where he grew up, about Sunday sermons on loving your neighbor, feeding the hungry, clothing the naked, showing mercy. He had always believed those words, but belief was easier than action. Action required courage. Action required sacrifice. Action required facing consequences. He had acted. He had faced consequences. And somehow, miraculously, he had survived. Not unchanged, not unscathed, but alive. Vindicated, acknowledged. The note said he was a good man. He did not feel good. He felt ordinary, flawed, afraid. But maybe goodness was not about feeling. Maybe it was about choosing, about seeing suffering and responding, about risking safety for dignity. If that was goodness, then maybe he was good. Maybe that was enough. He lay back on his cot. He stared at the canvas ceiling. Afternoon light filtered through. Shadows moved across the fabric. He closed his eyes. For the first time in months, he felt peace. Real peace. Not the absence of conflict, but the presence of rightness. He had done what he could, given what he had, risked what was required. The women had received help. They had been seen. They had been treated with dignity, and they remembered. That was everything. That was enough. That was grace. He slept then, deeply, without nightmares, without fear, just rest, clean and simple and earned. When he woke, evening had come. Eli was back. He looked at Carter with concern. "You okay?" Carter smiled. "Yeah, I'm okay." "You look different." "I feel different," Carter said. He did not explain. Eli did not ask. Some things could not be put into words. Some things just had to be felt, experienced, carried forward. Carter stood. He washed his face. He went to dinner. He ate with his unit. He joked with Eli. He listened to Miles tell stories. He was present, alive, human. And in his Bible, between sacred verses, a note rested, simple words on rough paper, but carrying the weight of eternity. "We know what you are, a good man." The calendar turned. Weeks became months. Japan began rebuilding. The occupation continued. The island camp shrank. Units rotated home. POWs were repatriated. The war truly ended. Carter received orders in early 1946. Honorable discharge, return to the States, back to Mississippi, back to the life he had left 3 years earlier. He packed his belongings. His Bible went into his duffel first. The note was still inside. The journey home took weeks. Ships, trains, buses. He crossed the Pacific, crossed the country. Finally arrived at a small town where cotton fields stretched to the horizon. His mother met him at the bus station. She wept. He held her. They went home. Life resumed slowly. Carter found work at the colored hospital. He married a schoolteacher named Ruth. They had children. A son, then a daughter. Life moved forward. The war became memory. The island became dream, but Carter never forgot. Years passed. His daughter, Grace, grew curious. She was 12 when she first asked about the war. They sat on the porch. Summer evening, crickets sang. Lightning bugs danced. "Daddy, what did you do in the war?" Carter rocked in his chair. He looked at her. She had his eyes, Ruth's smile, intelligence beyond her years. "I was a medic," he said. "I helped people." "Did you fight?" "Not the way you mean," Carter said. "But I fought. In a different way." Grace leaned forward. "Tell me." Carter was quiet. He thought about what to say, how much to share. She was young, but old enough for truth, old enough for complexity. "I was on an island," he said, "near Japan, after the surrender. There was a camp there, prisoners, women." He paused. Grace waited. "They were suffering," Carter continued. "Nothing dramatic, nothing violent, just basic human indignity. Nobody cared. They were the enemy. They were women. They were forgotten." "What did you do?" "I helped them," Carter said simply. "I gave them what they needed. Medical supplies, basic necessities, things that should have been theirs anyway." "Was that wrong?" Carter smiled. "Some people thought so. I got in trouble, almost court-martialed, almost lost everything." Grace's eyes widened. "Why?" "Because I was a black man helping Japanese women," Carter said. "Because the rules said they didn't deserve help. Because showing mercy looked like weakness, or worse. What happened? They stood up for me," Carter said. His voice softened. "Those women, those prisoners, they risked punishment to defend me. They told the truth about what I'd done. And somehow, it was enough." Grace was quiet. She processed this. Then she asked the question Carter had been waiting for. "Why did you help them? If it was so dangerous?" Carter looked at the sky. Stars were emerging, the same stars that had shone over the Pacific, over the compound, over the fence where he had stood with Aki. "Because they were human," he said, "and being human meant they deserved dignity. War didn't change that. Enemies didn't change that. Nothing changed that." "Did you keep anything from that time?" Carter nodded. "A letter. They wrote me a letter, thanking me." "Can I see it?" "Someday," Carter said. "When you're older, when you understand what it cost, what it meant." Grace accepted this. They sat in silence. The evening deepened. Ruth called them for dinner. Grace ran inside. Carter followed slowly. He looked back at the porch, at the chair where he had sat, at the sky above. He thought about Aki, about Emmy, about the women whose names he never learned. He wondered where they were, if they were alive, if they remembered, if the memory mattered to them the way it mattered to him. He hoped so. He believed so, because that memory was sacred. It proved that even in the worst circumstances, human beings could choose mercy, could risk everything for dignity, could stand together across every dividing line. That was worth remembering, worth teaching, worth carrying forward. He went inside. He ate dinner with his family, he laughed, he lived, but part of him stayed on that island. Part of him would always be standing at that fence, looking into the eyes of women who saw him truly, who called him good, and he would honor that, for the rest of his life. The porch swing creaked gently. Carter sat alone. The year was 1959. He was older now, gray hair at his temples, lines around his eyes, but his hands were still steady, his mind still clear. He held the letter. The same one. 14 years old now. The paper was yellowing, fragile, but the words remained. He read them again. He had read them 1,000 times, maybe more. We know what you are, a good man. Inside the house, Ruth prepared Sunday dinner. Their children played in the backyard. Grace was in college now, studying to be a nurse, following her father's path, making him proud. The radio played softly through the window. A news program, something about international relations, something about Japan's economic recovery. Carter half listened. Then a segment began about cultural exchange, about reconciliation between former enemies. A Japanese melody played, traditional instruments, koto strings, shakuhachi flute. The sound was haunting. Beautiful. Carter closed his eyes. He was transported. Back to the island, back to the compound, back to faces he had not seen in over a decade. He wondered again. Where were they now? Aki with her nurse's hands and sharp eyes, Emmy with her shy smile and quiet courage, Hana with her white hair and determination. All of them. The 28 women who had stood in the rain. Were they alive? Were they well? Did they have families? Did they tell their children about the American soldier who helped them? Did they remember his name? He hoped they did not suffer anymore. He hoped they found peace. He hoped their lives were full of dignity, the dignity he had tried to protect, the dignity they had fought to preserve. A car pulled into the driveway. Grace emerged, home from school for the weekend. She saw her father on the porch. She climbed the steps and sat beside him. "Hi, Daddy." "Hi, baby girl." She noticed the letter in his hand. She was old enough now. 20 years old, studying medicine, understanding sacrifice. "Is that the letter?" she asked. Carter nodded. He handed it to her. She read it carefully. Her eyes filled with tears. When she finished, she folded it gently. She gave it back. "They loved you," she said. "No," Carter said. "They were grateful. That's different." "I don't think so," Grace said. "I think gratitude is a form of love. Maybe the purest form." Carter considered this. Maybe she was right. Maybe love was not always romance, not always family. Sometimes love was recognition, acknowledgement. One human being seeing another truly, completely, without barriers. If that was love, then yes. Those women had loved him, and he had loved them back, by seeing their suffering, by responding, by risking everything to honor their humanity. "I want to be like you," Grace said quietly. Carter looked at her. "Like me how?" "Someone who helps, someone who sees people, someone who does what's right even when it's hard." Carter smiled. He put his arm around her shoulders. "Then you already are." They sat together. The swing creaked. The evening grew cool. Inside, Ruth hummed a hymn. The smell of cooking drifted through the window. Life was simple, ordinary, good. But Carter knew. Underneath the ordinary lived extraordinary moments, choices that defined character, actions that echoed through time. He had made his choices, had taken his actions, and they mattered. Not because anyone celebrated them, not because he received medals or recognition, but because they were right, because they honored the image of God in every person, because they proved that mercy could survive even war. He looked at the letter one more time. Then he stood and went inside. He placed it carefully back in his Bible, between the same verses. He set the book on his shelf. Sacred things belonged in sacred places. He joined his family for dinner. They prayed, they ate, they talked, they laughed. Normal evening, normal life. but underneath ran currents of grace, of courage, of dignity defended and preserved. The sun set. Stars emerged. Somewhere across the ocean, in a country he would never visit again, women he would never see again might be looking at the same stars, might be remembering the same moments, might be telling the same stories, and in that shared memory, across oceans and years and every human division, something eternal lived. Human dignity. It had outlasted war, outlasted hatred, outlasted fear, and it would outlast everything else too, because some things were stronger than armies, stronger than bombs, stronger than time itself. Love, mercy, courage, dignity, these things endured. These things mattered. These things were enough. Carter smiled. He closed his eyes. And he rested. Finally. Completely. At peace.